Welcome to the 2013 USA Ultimate College Championships presented by USA Ultimate. Under rainy conditions here in Madison, Wisconsin, it's number 4 Pittsburgh and Sabah versus the number 1 seed in the Open Division, Eagle of Oregon. Here's who's in the mix looking to make it to Memorial Day Monday and play for a chance at the title. Oregon and Pittsburgh hit last year's defending champion and number 6 Central Florida against 7th-seeded Carleton College. Glad to have you with us. Mike Cousins along with two-time Wake Forest Ultimate Captain Evan Lepler. So Pittsburgh here to defend its title, but they go up against number 1 Oregon, the Eagles squad, with this year's Callahan Award winner.
Well, Dylan Freechild was named the Callahan Award winner earlier today. A deserving honor, but Pittsburgh arrives with great confidence, too. These have probably been the 2 best teams overall through Friday and Saturday. The question is who's going to be better on Sunday and then Monday.
So let's take a look at 2 of our top players here in this men's semifinal, and we'll start with Tyler DiGirolamo.
Well, Pittsburgh has made a big deal about the fact that this is not the defending champs from 2012. This is 2013 Pitt, a brand new team. But last year's leading goal scorer from Nationals, Tyler DiGirolamo, he is the stud for Pittsburgh. He is so strong and forceful. He's big, he's tall, he's quick, he's imposing. He is the number 1 deep threat, and he'll match up with Oregon's Aaron Hahn. He's the closest thing that Ego has to Tyler DiGirolamo.
On the other side, Mr. Freechild. He is this year's top player in the Open Division.
Yeah, he joins a long line of great college players. Freechild has been playing Ultimate for quite a while. He's super quick. He's not huge, but he plays really, really big. He can jump. He's so difficult to defend on his handler cuts. He's the heart and soul of this team. You see the black paint on his face. He plays with an attitude. He plays with a swagger. He's trying to lead his team to a title.
The USA Ultimate College Championships are presented by the Discraft UltraStar 175 Sport Disc, the official championship disc of USA Ultimate since 1991.
The training to be an ultimate athlete and to compete at the highest level in this sport is something unlike anything I've ever experienced. Players have to be able to have incredible endurance and play for the length of time of a soccer game. They have to have the fast twitch muscles of a football player or a basketball player, and yet they have to have the muscle memory and muscle mass to complete the longest throws of wrestlers or powerlifters. So the training involves endurance training, it involves speed training, it involves weight training, and involves repetitive training of throwing to gain the muscle memory of how to complete that pass when you're at your most tired.
Thanks to Richard Dana and all of USA Ultimate putting on a great tournament this weekend. Thousands have been on hand so far. We look forward to this matchup as well. Lineup for number 4 Pittsburgh under second-year head coach Nick Kazmarek. Pat Earls gets a little thorny in the middle with Max and Alex on their cutter line. Tyler DiGirolamo, Zach Kaufman, Michael Brenner, and Isaac Saul are the handlers. So for number 1 Oregon, their head coach Jay Janin, Aaron Hahn, Dylan Freechild, Gabe Fruchter, and Topher Davis, the cutters. Charlie Wilson Moses, Camden Allison Hall, and Trevor Smith. He's left out. He doesn't have a hyphenated name along the handling line.
It's tough to pick out just 1 or 2 guys to focus. All 7 of those guys are impact players. That's why Oregon enters as the number 1 seed.
Nick Kazmarek, who people will tell you is one of the most prepared coaches in all of the game, his second year at the helm for Sabah. And Jay Janin looking very stoic along the sidelines as Ego gets set to go up against the defending national champions. Well, it started out sunny today. Temperature now down from 65 earlier to 60. The wind has been switching from a left-right to a north-south, and light rain that has been on and off over the last 30 minutes or so. So we're ready to go here, and Pittsburgh will let it fly with the opening pull.
Both of these teams have talked about the basic importance of execution. While they haven't played since Stanford of last year, they're familiar with each other. They've both been featured teams all season long, and this is one of the great showdowns that you'll see in College Ultimate today. Freechild with the disc.
And a good amount of rest for these two teams coming into this game, with the women's semifinals having taken place earlier this afternoon.
Both of these teams were pool winners, advancing straight to the corners. Pittsburgh beating North Carolina's dark side. Oregon outlasting UC Davis, a Davis squad that pushed Oregon in the first half before Ego pulled away.
Davis actually struck first in that game. Did look pretty close in that first half.
Dangerously close to the sideline, but able to keep it alive.
Topher Davis skied for that nice grab. Trevor Smith goes far side. And it's in 1-0. Oregon out in front. Pulled in by Davis.
Yeah, Davis the reception. Aaron Hahn gets the assist. They have so many deep threats. Aaron Hahn is probably their most dangerous deep threat, but this is simple underneath cut, the high release backhand break, and easy up line to Davis for the score.
And a great read by Davis, because he saw once that catch was made by Hahn in front, he started extending its stride and speeding right into his line of vision to be able to be open for that catch.
What Ultimate's about, timing, precision, the confidence of knowing what your teammate is going to do before he does it. That's team chemistry. One of the many reasons why Oregon's at the top.
So a very quick strike for Ego. 30-3 regular season record. Came in with a win over UC Davis to make it to this round. Both teams in their previous games winning by finals of 15-9, pretty comfortably in hand by the time those games were over.
You know, Oregon came in as the #1 seed. Pittsburgh, despite being last year's champion, they came in as the 4th #1 seed, the 4th seed overall. They had a bit of an up and down season. And, you know, Nick Kazmarek, the head coach, has talked about the fact that they really didn't have everything clicking. They had some injuries, but they've played their best Ultimate of the year in Nationals without question. Here comes a big pull from the Callahan Award winner. Freechild spinning and lets it go.
Back into the end zone, and Sabah on the attack. DiGirolamo with a first quick touch. He's headed down the field, looking to pull in a huck in the end zone.
Great help defense from Oregon. DiGirolamo had Aaron Hahn beat up the sideline, but 2 Ego defenders came to help out. The disc a little out of reach, and Freechild laying out to make sure that DiGirolamo wouldn't have a chance or any angle at the disc.
So it's played in, and already some physical contact. Max Thorne on the D there, right on the far sideline. You expect that between these two teams? A little bit of physicality?
It's going to be physical. It's going to be intense. I don't think it'll be overly aggressive or dirty, but these are two teams that are going to try to impose their will. They're both just physically very strong.
Close catches along the sideline. Penner's got it. Teed up there by Kaufman. Going end zone, leaping grab, they've got it. There's Freechild for the score.
He's almost impossible to defend on those upline cuts. A break for Oregon. They're not going to get to enjoy their typical break celebration in which they stuff the score in a trash can, but still very excited nonetheless. You can see the swagger from Freechild. Look at this speed upline cut. He just goes around Thorne, a perfect outside in flick. That's the thing about Oregon. They have so many playmakers. I mean, that was not an easy throw from Penner, but perfectly put to space. You see the weak side defender, Michael Brenner, in the area as well, but he's not going to outjump Freechild in space.
Now that's a matchup that both teams said, hey, here's one you want to look for. But if it's that one-sided, there's going to have to be a change defensively for in Sabah.
Well, I think Pittsburgh's confidence in their ability to match up with him. With that said, they haven't matched up with him for a long time. It's a little different seeing him on film versus seeing that speed and quickness in person. The funny thing is, Pittsburgh wants to have Trent Dillon on Dylan Fairchild, so we might see some Dillon on Dillon to try to shut down the nation's best.
Ego's set for the pull. And now Pitt will try and put something on the board.
It's easy for a coach to say this, but neither coach seemed particularly concerned about the conditions being a little wet, sloppy, and breezy.
DiGirolamo with his second touch. No, especially not Pitt. They ran into a lot of rain at Easterns. They said they're not particularly concerned with it. Doorstep, end zone, got it. Pittsburgh with its first score of the game.
The thing about Pittsburgh's offense the past couple days, it really hasn't been challenged. You know, at times against Texas, the number 2 seed in their pool, they just cut right through the tough defense. And here, Oregon, they're not playing bad defense, but there's really not much they can do about that little break right up the middle. Thorne with the assist and the goal for Aaron Watson. Pittsburgh's confidence extends beyond their top 7. Watson, part of the crew of 14 to 17 players that the coaching staff really has great confidence in. And he said that one of the things that has really helped Pitt this year and this weekend is the fact that, you know, their numbers 12 through 17 are usually better than the opposing team's second string.
In the sport of ultimate, first team to 15 is the winner. Halftime comes for the first team that reaches 8. And one of the big things in this game, along with the spirit of the game, is self-officiating. There are observers on hand if they need a resolution of any type of conflict, but for the most part, it's left between the players to decide when things are up in the air.
And one of the unique aspects about this matchup in particular, a lot of these guys are familiar with each other from national team, from the Next Gen Tour. These are some of the best players in Ultimate that are good friends off the field, despite the fact that they're adversaries today. So far, Freechild has been able to do whatever he's wanted. Guarded by Trent Dillon here. That's the first time he may have done something he didn't want to hammer, but he was still successful.
Wilson Moses pushes upfield. Fruchter was going toward the end zone. Nobody saw him. Hahn with the give and go up right toward the goal line. Who will take it in? There's the score, Topher Davis.
It looks to me like Pittsburgh is really reluctant to give Oregon anything deep. That time DiGirolamo was forcing Aaron Hahn in. You watch Aaron Hahn on film, he's ridiculous deep. He has similar speed to DiGirolamo, and they forced him inside. Hahn up line to Freechild, who burned his defender, Trent Dillon, and that's just really, really easy.
One thing to note is we did have our first TMF of the game in Oregon before the prior point for excessive fouling. So a physical game, TMF, what does that mean?
Team misconduct foul. It's presumed that you won't intentionally violate the rules. It's a huge part of spirit of the game. If you do intentionally violate the rules and it's obvious, which it usually is, you can be assessed a TMF. If you're charged with 2 TMFs, nothing happened. The third time you sacrifice field position, and that can be costly in a tight game.
(3-1), Ego leading Pittsburgh. Polls so far have not really been affected by the wind. Which is more of a side wind now than it is going to be a headwind for anybody. Long look downfield. It's a little bit too strong there. That had a little bit too much of a cut on it as Pitt went downfield for Alex Thorne.
Oregon already with a 2-score lead. Now with the disc. Pittsburgh hasn't been able to do much until Oregon drops it.
And it's right in and out of the hands of Mario Bundy. So the long hawk didn't pay off for Sabah, but they get it right back just one pass later.
And that's about as unforced a turnover as you can get. But one deserves another. Pittsburgh's pressing a little bit right now. They're trying to go for it all. Oregon had the careless drop. That will happen. But here's a shot, not nearly enough float on that disc. Sort of a gratuitous bid from Alex Thorne. He had no shot to get there. You'll love to see the hustle. A deep shot with a stall count rising. This is basically a punt.
Grab made by Pitt. They're going to try and move quickly back the other way. DiGirolamo with the touch. Moves it across midfield. Down to Thorne, who's forced home along the far sideline. To the end zone. And a jump disc. Falls down to the back of the end zone.
Alex Thorne was there, but he couldn't reach it. This is really close, and frankly one that he probably feels he should have had. Look at his face. Looks like a tough catch, and it is, but for a guy like Thorne, he makes that catch 49 times out of 50. Except perhaps in the semifinals of nationals. Then the pressure is a little more ramped up.
Ego just getting out of the end zone.
With that said, he has been here before. Pittsburgh made all those plays last year.
And this is a spot where you really want to avoid a Callahan.
Oregon very, very patient. Horizontal stack here. 3 handlers on the back line. 4-man host stack across the field. Creates space to cut in and cut deep. Personally, my favorite offense for a team to run, the horizontal stack.
What advantage does that give you over a vertical stack?
It just creates more space cutting in and cutting deep. It enables you to better isolate matchups in the middle of the field. Timeout called here by Oregon, it looks like. And just by doing that, you know, if you got one guy that you want to isolate going deep, you can basically, you know, take advantage of that, or you can survey who you have. You'll have 4 matchups across and make a call for some guy to go in, some guy to go deep. And if you have a handler confident with the throws, you can just put it to space and let the true superstar athletes go to work.
Oregon stops play here with a 3-1 lead. If you're able to drop a play here out of a timeout or select an offense, what do you go with?
Well, I think Oregon will probably settle back into their host stack. Pittsburgh will probably be in a strong man defense. Pittsburgh talked a lot before the game about how important the mark was. And so far, their marks, it's not that they've been non-existent, but they really haven't been all that impactful. We get a look at the observers in the orange. 4 observers here in the semifinal.
Well, since Pitt is the defending champion, we knew that it would be even harder this year to do what we did last year. We obviously have a huge target on our back. Everybody's gunning for us. And at the beginning of the season, our team talked about how we have a completely new team. Regardless of how many people we lost or gained, we still have, you know, obviously we have this target on our back, and we need to put in even more work this year to accomplish what we did last year.
On a long huck, and Sabah takes over on the interception by Pat Earls. But there we heard the difference between the 2013 Pittsburgh team and the 2012 squad. They still like to air it out to the end zone, and the catch is made. Earls the interception, and he completes the score at the other end.
Pat Earls with a phenomenal bookend. The D on one side and the score on the other. And both were tremendously athletic plays. He's not just a deep target. Tyler can throw too, and that is about as perfect as you can get.
They've got to be on the same page there, because from the time DiGirolamo made that catch and then let it fly, there couldn't have been more than a second elapsed there, and he knew Earls was going to be streaking downfield.
He basically made the D at the other end zone, gave it up, and then just took off. A full field 70-yard sprint for the sophomore.
And now Pittsburgh has taken a timeout. Was mentioning before that huck from DiGirolamo about the difference between this 2013 and 2012 team. Last year, they play in the championship game against the Wisconsin Hodags out in Boulder, Colorado. This year, they say, let's forget that. and focus on this season.
And they've done a pretty good job this year, peaking at the right time. Don't be concerned by that one loss. It was in their final pool play game against Arizona. Pitt rested most of its regulars. They had already secured the top seed, taken down North Carolina's dark side in the quarterfinals. It was a Pittsburgh team that has most of its key studs back from a year ago. A few names that they lost from last year's championship team: Julian Hausman, a great versatile player, 6'3" with intensity. Jason Kunsa, Tyler Kunsa's older brother. He was probably the best defender they had last year. And also Colin Connor, a 3-year captain. He brought great leadership. But in terms of the X's and O's of Pittsburgh's offense and defense, Nick Kazmarek has his primary studs back trying to repeat.
And they'll tell you, too, if you ask around the team and in the locker room, that Jason Kunsa was perhaps the best handler that Sabah has ever had. Since this team came to fruition back in the late 90s, and the founder of their team, William Brotman, is here to watch them play in the tournament.
Yeah, helped to build this program up from scratch. They didn't get to regionals until about 2003, but now in their 9th straight year at nationals, sort of a northeastern team out of the current Ohio Valley region. It's been Pittsburgh and everybody else. It really has.
Ego with the disc in the neon uniforms, leading by 1 score.
I think Trent Dillon is learning today exactly what Dylan Freechild is all about. Freechild just exploded away from him. He played the in-cut, he got the in-cut, and there was still no chance of a layout D. Freechild was accelerating to the disc, yards away from his defender.
Foul called, no contest, so play resumes.
Stall count getting high, taking a shot.
They want the huck, curling out and sitting out. If the disc does curl out of bounds and come back in, it's still up for play. That time the forehand flick, just not the right angle on it.
He actually had Freechild, a good throw to space, and Oregon's got to like that matchup. But high in the stall count, he rushed the release a little bit.
So Trent Dillon continues to be challenged with Freechild. And Sabah gets it back in. Moving down the field.
One of the keys to the game for Oregon was their dump defense, trying to prevent the easy dump by really pressuring the handler behind the disc.
They play DiGirolamo straight up. He dishes off and heads toward the goal line.
Watch the Hahn DiGirolamo matchup down the field. That's a great D. The willingness to lay out, so important in ultimate. Putting your body on the line for the good of your team. When you get a layout D, nothing feels quite so good.
Looking for Zach Kaufman, and they end up getting 2 defenders over there, helping to knock it away. Topher Davis has been all over the place.
Dangerous.
And contact in the end zone.
Marcus Rainai drop show. Looked like he got there first, seeing it live.
Hey, everybody good where they are?
Okay. See if we can hear the observers.
Foul, is anyone? Hey, just after this point, will you get that elbow cleaned up? You gotta get it wrapped or something. All right, you guys. Ruling.
No foul. Pittsburgh with a legit D. Rainai drop show did get there first, and it'll be Pittsburgh possession.
And Sabah down 1 with a chance to tie. Backhand, DiGirolamo's got it. 3-3 our score.
Well, that defensive play gives Pittsburgh a jolt of adrenaline, taking the turnover from Oregon right on the goal line. And then the easy high backhand release. Tyler DiGirolamo led everybody statistically last year at Nationals. If anything this year, it's been more of a team effort from Pitt. But after an early 2-score deficit, we're right back on track.
And it was strong defense there, no question about it. Before this game, we talked with Ari Weitzman, one of the assistant coaches under Nick Kaczmarek for Pitt. He said, are we going to wake ourselves up, or do we need something to wake us up? And it was the defense there, so they're keeping themselves in this game. Both sides of the desk.
There's Jay Jannon, the Oregon head coach, been involved in the sport for a long time. It's funny, DiGirolamo was not an ultimate player before he got to Pittsburgh. He was a soccer player growing up, but 6'3", now 23 years old, clearly had the athleticism. They said as a freshman, he came out, he was very, very confused, as most freshmen are who haven't played before. Here's the message they gave to him. When that guy gets the disc, sprint to the end zone as fast as you can. And he got a lot of chances to score in his career with En Sabah. And he'll get another one perhaps right here.
Ego turfs it, and Pittsburgh wants a timeout.
That's the second and final timeout of the half for Pitt. So until half number 2, that'll be it. They're wanting to capitalize and get this break right here to sustain the momentum they've built. That was a careless turnover, by the way, for Oregon. You know, both teams have struggled a little bit. Both teams have looked great at times. Both teams have looked iffy at times.
Pittsburgh and Oregon. Ego coming in with a win over the University of California, Davis, and Pittsburgh taking down the University of North Carolina. Later on tonight, the University of Central Florida, student body about 50,000, goes up against Carleton College, about 2,000.
Well, Carleton has much more ultimate experience on their team. Carleton has so many kids from Seattle who grew up playing the sport. Central Florida, under Andrew Roca, only had 2 guys on the team that played in high school, and yet here they are in the semifinals after making the quarters in their first trip to Nationals last year.
Pittsburgh breaks the timeout with a vertical stack into the end zone, and Zach Kaufman standing just outside the goal line.
Tyler DiGirolamo and Aaron Hahn, the matchup right near the goal line. Good break.
They go outside in the hands of Aaron Watson. Straight away. Just out of the hands of Red-Eye Drop Cho. He started with the disc. They wanted him in front, and so it goes back to Ego. A tough turnover there for Oregon, and they get it right back.
Pick was called. Unlike basketball, you can't set screens on a defender. If you do, the offensive player has to stop. The defensive player that got picked is allowed to catch up and a quick restart.
So Camden Allison Hall restarts play. Topher Davis, forced forehand, gets it away, and the catch is made despite contact. They play on.
Not much to gain by calling a foul there. You want to keep the flow moving. He made the grab. Stall count would have been 0 either way. And another just careless, unforced turnover. Oregon's throws all weekend long have been better than what we're seeing right now.
Credit too, though, as we heard from Nick Kaczmarek, he said they want to pressure on their marks. Forcing that here, and now a 3-3 game, they get another opportunity inside midfield. Dangerous throw. DiGirolamo bobbles and hangs on.
Some contact in the end zone. Gabe Fruchter called for the foul. Looked like he had good position They are going to call it a foul, but Fruchter's going to sustain this position. That's a dangerous situation because he was guarding the break side. They were force and flick. He was guarding for the backhand. Pittsburgh player could have gone to the force side and been wide open.
Renai drop forced home. Breaks the mark to bring it back to DiGirolamo, who goes to the end zone. He's just short. Outside, and they get the score. Aaron Watson, the junior from Pittsburgh. It only took 3 of the 7 players on the field to make it happen.
DiGirolamo, a tremendous deep threat, but he also has the short throws. The upline cut, so tough to defend. Just basic handler cuts, that comes from a blackjack drill. Right up for the easy score.
The matchup here is against Hahn, who's a step behind, and that allows him to get off the backhand into the end zone.
Blackjack drill, a handler drill, 2 guys going up and back. One guy goes up and back, the other goes across the field. A great basic drill for young handlers to work on handler cuts, to get open, improve quickness, and the short, tight throws that are so important to reset the stall count and to work it down the field.
That was the second goal of the game for Watson, giving Sabah the 4-3 advantage. They get set to let it fly here on the pull. And again, halftime hits when the first team reaches 8. And the first lead for Pittsburgh as well. They get set to defend it.
You know, I'm not surprised that Pittsburgh has come back, but I am a little surprised at how Oregon has sort of given it to them. You know, Oregon looks super invincible on their first couple offensive possessions.
Flick toward the end zone, one-on-one matchup. It hangs high, jump disc, Oregon for the score. They strike quickly down the field and find Gabe Fruchter, the 6'4" junior.
This is just a great matchup. Free Child gave his teammate a chance to make a play. A good defender in Ethan Beardsley, who's 6'6", but timing the jump perfectly. They've already got one TMF. He didn't want the taunting call. A poised, if not enthusiastic, celebration from Ego.
Well, you mentioned earlier their garbage can celebration after they score. It's something you really don't see from anybody else.
They take the guy who scored, put a usually, hopefully, empty garbage can on his head and bang the sides of it. It has to leave the guy with a headache, but he just scored a break for his team. You see all sorts of unique and, use the word, interesting celebrations after scores in Ultimate. Creative is probably a good word.
It's one of those big industrial plastic garbage cans. They just put it right over his head.
There is plenty of air. They're not trying to suffocate him.
So back and even at 4, and it's Sabah on the attack. Game number 1 of our men's rather open semifinals here. One more coming later on tonight for a chance to play tomorrow in the championship game.
There's a stoppage here. You notice the field is damp. A pick was called. Pittsburgh called it. I beg your pardon, Oregon called it. But with a wet field, you are seeing guys, despite their cleats, slipping and sliding a little bit on some of these really tight cuts.
And in chatting with some of the Pittsburgh coaches before this game, they said even if the rain stops, the disc is still going to be wet, the field is still going to be slick, so it still does play a role in the game, despite the rain not falling as heavily as it did earlier today. Max Thorne looking for the offense. Inside. And right along the sideline, 1 foot down. They've got it again. Michael Brenner, the senior.
for Oregon that time. Topher Davis did a nice job cutting off the dump. Pittsburgh wanted the dump swing, but it wasn't there. They were forced to look up line, and a timely break side cut for the score. First point of contact is what matters when you're trying to tiptoe the sidelines and land inbound. Clearly that right foot came in, the second foot was out. This is not the NFL. It's a good thing for Pittsburgh, and they score.
Because on first look, you weren't sure if he did get that back foot in because the left foot comes down out of bounds, but the right foot does just drag there on the sideline of the end zone.
You should praise the hustle from that layout. Both these teams sort of settling in right now. Michael Brenner, the New Jersey native. You know, oftentimes the guy who scores the goal isn't nearly as important as what his teammates are doing. The playing field proper, 70 yards from the front of the end zone to the other, 120 total yards. Slightly narrower than a football field. But a cutter can only get open if his teammates are helping him create space by playing an organized offense. One of the more intricate zone defenses for Pittsburgh, and so far it's not working, and it looks like they're trying to call fire to match up man-to-man.
Well, Nick Kaczmarek told us in somewhat of a guarded fashion, understandably so, don't want to let the secrets out, but that there are some 30 variations on their defense. This forehand flies wide out of bounds, so it goes back to Pittsburgh, but 30 variations on a defense is a pretty significant number.
In a way, he's almost like the Bill Belichick of Ultimate Frisbee. Now, he's not nearly that guarded, but in terms of being a defensive guru and having a playbook with so many different variations, and he'll call out the play as the pull is in the air sometimes, as he looks at the line that the opposing team has on offense as he decides what to do.
Quick movement toward midfield as Sabah started right on the goal line.
Freechild poached, left his man, left someone open, and a mistake on the throw. Aaron Watson was being guarded by Freechild. Someone else went deep, Freechild left him. Watson got it wide open and then just turned it over. A lot of space underneath right here for Ego.
Middle of the field, great spot to distribute. Nice high release backhand. Flick going end zone toward the sideline.
Greatest attempt, but nobody's home. That would have been tremendous. Freechild mistimed that throw, and frankly, there was too much inside-out tilt on that flick, more than he was intending. That would have counted, but Aaron Hom was headed toward the disc instead of anticipating the greatest, which is probably the most visually spectacular thing you can see on an ultimate field.
Pittsburgh in front, 5-4, looking to stretch that lead to 2. 1st to 8 brings us to halftime here in Madison, Wisconsin. Long huck, we've gone back and forth. That's intercepted in contact after the catch is made. Gabe Fruchter there.
Fruchter not intimidated by DiGirolamo at all. This is one of the great matchups you can have. They were stride for stride, but the Oregon player had position. Unable to sustain possession through the catch, but as the defender forcing the turnover, it's still Ego's disc.
And on the D there, whether the catch is made or whether it's tapped away, it still goes back to Oregon.
For an offensive player, you do need to sustain possession through the landing all throughout it. So if he was an offense, it would have been a turnover because he didn't sustain the catch. But as a defensive player, it's not his possession until he has sustained it.
That tried far too long, and both teams are getting a little huck happy here.
Well, the fans love the huck. It's probably the most fun throw you can have, just to work it up the field, 10 yards underneath. It's basically the equivalent of 3 yards in a cloud of dust. You want to throw it long, take your deep shots, shoot the J, and both teams have done it successfully all tournament long. If you can't tell, I was one of those guys that loved to shoot it deep. Most of my teammates would have to say, holster, take it easy. Let's take the sure thing. What's the fun in that though, right?
Strong mark there, trying to prevent the dump. Nearly a turnover for Pittsburgh.
And in reality, the best teams can usually do both and pick their spots the best.
DiGirolamo marked at midfield. Now he gets it back.
Good little hander cuts to get the reset. DiGirolamo matched with Hahn, trying to go up line. He got a step.
DiGirolamo looking toward the end zone.
Looked like a foul with no contest from Hahn. Now trying for the dump swing.
Rainite drop Joe. DiGirolamo, the give and go, not there. And a pick being called in the end zone.
It was called 4 or 5 throws ago. Sometimes down in the field, a pick can be called away from the play. The guys with the disc don't notice. They're focused on other things. When a team has it close to the end zone on one sideline, they're looking for a dump swing. It's very similar to soccer. When they play it back to the defense, back near the midfield line. In soccer, teams at the offensive end might play it all the way back to midfield and sometimes to the keeper as they're organizing their tactics near the goal. Same story on the ultimate field.
Gabe, see if you can pop off a little. See if you can kind of poach to the front of the field. I got your tuck.
So they're trying to recapture the positions that everyone was in at the time of the pick.
Keep this vertical position.
DiGirolamo to play it back in. He gives, he goes.
Go around.
And tightly guarded once again. Good job on the mark by Hahn.
And next.
Watson, hammer, end zone. Two-handed grab for the score for Sabah. Nice grab by Trent Dillon, the sophomore.
Oregon led 3-1, and that's now 5 of the last 6 points for the defending champs. They hammer to finish this one off after the good swing. You can watch Dillon time his cut to the break side. Free Child was guarding the fore side. He had a step. He has the score. Really tough to defend a play like that. There's only so much the defense can do. And that's why the unforced turnovers can add up. Because if an offense is really in gear, there are things you can do, but there's only so much against the elite offenses in the country. And that's probably what Oregon's talking about right here. This is probably not as much about defense as it is about taking care of the disc on offense, like they have done all tournament long. Their roughest game was their first game. They had a first half lead on Colorado Mama Bird, and then behind Jimmy Mickle, Mama Bird rallied back. Tied it at 14 all, and actually Mama Bird had the disc on the goal line to win the game, could not put it away. Oregon came down, got that win on Universe Point. One of the most exciting games of the tournament, and the coolest thing about that game is this. Mama Bird's Jimmy Mickle, Oregon's Free Child and Hahn play next gen together. They've traveled around, they're all good friends. That game ended 15-14, just a crushing loss for Colorado. As soon as it ended, Hahn and Mickle embraced like they were best friends. And he said after the game, they're best friends. And they ultimate players are a special niche and a special breed. And to have, your dreams, you're so close to upsetting the top seed in your first game of nationals, and to be able to sort of smile about it and realize well, that was one of the best games I've ever played, and we still lost. One of the really cool things about this sport.
And those close bonds, too, extend pair to pair on the Ego roster. Freechild and Hahn were high school teammates at South Eugene High School. Now decisions being made as the pull gets ready to fly from the Pittsburgh end.
Freechild wins the Callahan as a junior. He'll be back next year. Aaron Hahn, just a sophomore. Ironically, he won't be back next year. He's planning on spending his entire junior year abroad in France. So he may take over the French ultimate scene, but this is perhaps his best chance to win a national title here in 2013.
Lots of opportunity downfield for Ego, and a layout just short. Great effort there, though, going downfield by Charlie Wilson Moses, the senior. They had plenty of opportunity, and this one just a little bit too much.
This hung up a little longer than perhaps he thought. He began his layout early, really, really close.
Now, you'll slide a little bit on a dry field, but it's almost a little bit like a slip and slide with the slick nature of this grass with having rain falling down on it for probably about 3 or 4 hours today.
In the ultimate world, that's great layout conditions. Doesn't get better than that.
So it was Oregon who had called that timeout. Ego failed to convert.
Hey, let's get set.
Check back in, downfield, one-handed grab. Pulled in by Kunsa.
Nice, Colin.
Quick disc movement, corner of the end zone, and a score. They quickly find Trent Dillon, and then Sabah has the 3-goal lead.
Pittsburgh wanted to start strong, and Sabah did not. But right now, Pittsburgh is a well-oiled machine. Working it up the field offensively, taking the smart throw, the underneath throw, and that's a really good break. Not all that difficult of a throw, but the timing is what's more impressive than the actual throw itself. He got the backhand fake, got his defender, Oregon's Ian Campbell, off to his right hip, created space by stepping back across. Impressive. That's good fundamental offensive ultimate.
So now one more point, and Pitt sends it to half on a 3-0 run at this point. Should Oregon, the #1 seed, be worried?
Yeah, they should be. And you know, Oregon has the talent and the horses to come back even if Pittsburgh scores here. But, you know, Pittsburgh, if they take half 8-4, they would look at it as a monumental collapse, even against a team like Oregon. This is almost a must score for Ego right here, just to quell some of this momentum. Because if Pittsburgh takes half, scoring 7 of the last 8 points, I mean, that's something that may happen in sectionals or regionals. That shouldn't happen in the semifinals of nationals against the top seed.
Ray dropped Cho with a lofty pull into the end zone. And Ego needs a goal.
DiGirolamo did a nice job poaching to prevent the first look at a Huck.
Camden Allison Hall was headed downfield.
And Oregon did not do a great job capitalizing on the poach. Usually when you're poached.
Trevor Smith, the Huck. Allison Hall is in. They needed a goal, and they got it from their senior.
Camden Allison Hall, one of the many weapons that Oregon has on its offense. This was a good throw, and more importantly, the timing was right. They had some chances to throw deep earlier, but DiGirolamo was lurking. This time he was up guarding Aaron Hahn, and you know what they've done so far? They have not used Aaron Hahn as a deep threat once. And it's probably because they don't want to give DiGirolamo a chance to make those plays. And they have so many other weapons that they're able to use deep that they're just as confident in as Hahn, a guy like Camden Allison Hall, who's been in big-time Nationals games before.
Now, last year was a big year for Ego. They went 38-2, lost in the semifinals to Wisconsin. And now trying to stage a first-half comeback here against defending champion Pittsburgh.
Pittsburgh took down Carleton in the semis last year, then beat Wisconsin in the finals. Carleton back in the semifinals again. They'll take on a first-time semifinalist, Central Florida, shortly after this first semi concludes. Pull, is it going to stay in bounds? No.
That's a brick, and so Sabah will take it out of the end zone. On this offensive possession, a chance to take half 8-5.
Straight stack in the middle of the field, not a good throw, and it leads to a turnover. Penalty pick.
Topher Davis handles near midfield. Cross for Hahn. One-on-one matchup with DiGirolamo. Contact, catches made for Freechild. They're going small here. Right on the goal line. And in. Quick attack, right back the other way. Ty Swain, the junior, got it from Davis.
Dylan Freechild is as good as anybody I've ever seen at that floaty backhand. It's a dangerous throw, but he gets away with it by putting it to space, then the upfield flick, and then the easy score to the open side. But that started by Freechild's high backhand float right there. Usually you tell young players, don't float it up there, especially on a windy day. It's really dangerous. But he's so smart, he has a great sense of when he can get away with it, and he's basically unguardable because of it.
How about the space in which they created that score, squeezing it into about 10 yards of sideline?
Yeah, you know, some teams can and will work it up that far side, and it really puts the onus on the defensive guys guarding the cutters to try to prevent that far side cut. But, you know, it's all about timing, and it's all about respecting the fact that they could go break side. There's only so much you can do as a defender against these top offensive players.
Ego now 4 for 4 in the red zone, and Sabah turned it over quickly last time, and we'll have a chance to send it to the half once again.
2 big points in a row, though, for Ego. Even if Pitt takes the half here, 8-6, very easy to overcome a 2-point gap, a 4-point gap at the half. That's substantial.
Thorne up ahead. Mark quickly broken. That goes way back, and then Sabah turns it over again.
Max Thorne, Alex Thorne's younger brother, little too much on that break flick. And a chance for Oregon to tie things at 7.
Hahn had contact with DiGirolamo, and there's a call.
Yeah, Hahn looked like he stopped the rotation of the disc and had possession, then got hit from behind. Be surprised if DiGirolamo contested this. No contest. See if Oregon tries to jam this up the far side again, or whether they try to swing it off the line.
Davis guarded by Saul on the sideline. They get it in. Freechild.
That was a unique hesitation cut by Freechild. He chopped his feet so quickly and looked like he was going to go immediately. He stopped. He never turned to fake the other way, but then he just turned it on again. He sprinted about 10 yards toward the middle point of the field, completely hesitated, and then turned it on. That's a basketball style move. It really is. Little hesitation to the basket for 2, or an ultimate for 1.
What is it? Of course, his quickness is part of it, but what makes him so difficult to guard?
I mean, he chops his feet so quickly. His ability to change directions in an instant. You know, that's really what ultimate is about. Cutting back and forth to prevent your defender from staying with you. And if you come in and your defender's on you, well, you go deep. And if he's still on you, then you come in. And if he's still on you, then you go deep. And if the handlers are working it around and creating new stall counts, eventually, 1, your defender's going to be exhausted, and 2, you're going to be open for a score. And if you have endurance and you have that quickness, usually Freechild's not a guy who has to go back and forth and back and forth. Usually it's back or forth.
And then he's gone.
He gets open the first time.
Ego is clearly not worried about a 7-4 deficit. Oregon has scored 3 straight. That pull out of bounds. But offside's called against Ego.
1 offside's no big deal. A couple offsides, and that would be a yardage penalty.
And considering where that pull went, a lucky break for Oregon.
Yeah, it worked out. On Friday, I was chatting with Oregon head coach Jay Jan and asked him when he met Dylan Freechild. And he sort of smiled and laughed and said, I knew him when he was in kindergarten. He's a little bit better ultimate player now than he was then.
Barely out of the back of the end zone, a few yards shorter, and that is big-time trouble for Ed Sabah.
And if it lands in the back of the end zone and stays inbound, you have to play the disc right where it lies. If it lands in the back and rolls out, as long as it landed inbound, you take it to the front of the end zone at the point of the field where it went out. Looking deep to try to take half.
DiGirolamo gets up, brings it down, and Pitt takes half. It's 8-7 and Sabah. They avert danger and huck their way to halftime.
You knew that was coming. DiGirolamo, too dangerous when you send him deep not to give him a shot. And after Oregon runs off 3 straight, a nice flick huck from Alex Thorne. The Thorne to DiGirolamo connection, a very familiar catcher and thrower in the national ultimate landscape. Aaron Hahn was close, laid out on the line, but DiGirolamo had the angle, the position, and it's Pittsburgh taking half on Oregon.
So back and forth in that first half. It was Ego in front, Pittsburgh taking that 7-4 advantage, and then finally taking halftime at 8-7. So it's the defending champion Pittsburgh leading #1 seeded Oregon. We come back to take a look at the first half in a moment.
Mail time, everyone. Vero, Kip, PCAP, Carl, ooh, another one for Vero, Carl again, Sophia, Exton, Ningo, and one for accounting.
You're losing your touch, Ben.
So at the most elite level of college ultimate, the training is very difficult. For example, my team, we train 4 days a week with the team doing track workouts, 2 days a week doing practices, practicing plays, doing drills, and then everybody on the team is expected to be lifting 4 or 5 days a week on their own. So we put in, a significant amount of work, more than anybody would expect.
The training to be an ultimate athlete is not very much different than soccer or basketball. Early in the season, we have long distance workouts, get endurance, get your legs under you. You want to be able to run a pretty big field for a long amount of time. And then we have explosive, quick track workouts. You want to be able to change direction. You want to be able to jump pretty high. You want to be able to hang with the best of them. And I think that athletes who play ultimate aren't so different than those who play other sports. We have track workouts. We have lifting partners, and it's really no different than what I experienced playing other sports.
Ultimate's growing very quickly. We've been focusing on youth programs for the last 5 to 10 years now, and pushing it down into high schools. It's been a college-heavy sport for a long time. Kids learn how to play in college, but we've really been pushing coaching and getting kids to play in high school, and then pushing it down further to middle school. Doing a lot of outreach in PE classes, educating PE teachers about how to teach the sport, and those kids come out of those classes loving it, looking for opportunities to play, and that's what we're trying to provide.
At the break here in Open Semifinal number 1, and Sabah, the defending champion from Pittsburgh, leading Oregon 8-7. Back in Madison, Wisconsin, Mike Cousins, glad to have you along. Two-time Wake Forest Ultimate captain Evan Lepler here along as well. So in that first half, a lot of unforced turnovers between two teams that really like to air it out.
Yeah, both of these teams have great defenses and great defensive playmakers, but we didn't really see a ton of it. You know, there were a couple good defensive skies near the end zone, but for the most part, the offenses were really fluid except for when they weren't, and they were making unforced turnovers. This game's going to come down to an unforced turnover late. I think the message at halftime is probably just going to be, guys, let's go have fun. We're here. Play relaxed ultimate, and we'll go to the finals.
Back and forth they went in the first half, and it was Sabah with a 7-3 lead, and they take half 8-7. If you're Oregon, though, at one point we did say, you know what, yeah, they're going to be a little bit worried here, but they did make it a comeback to keep it close at the break.
I mean, Oregon's too talented not to compete. You know, Dylan Freechild won the Callahan Award before the game. I didn't have a chance to talk to Dylan, but I chatted with their coach, Jay Jannon. He said, he's excited to win the Callahan Award, but it's an individual award. He's a team player, and that's what they really came to Madison to do, is to win the national title.
Dylan Freechild obviously is going to have a big impact on this game. Tyler DiGirolamo scoring the final point to take us to half. Of those two players, who do you think had the bigger impact in the first half?
DiGirolamo, just because Pitt is winning, but Freechild is just as important to his team as Tyler is to Pittsburgh. They're both dynamic players, and they do it in different ways. Obviously, you stand them next to each other, and they're two very different bodies, different sizes, different strengths as players, but both so dangerous. That's one of the cool things about Ultimate 2 is the fact that somebody who's really short and quick can be just as impactful as someone who's 6'4" and can jump out of the gymnasium or in the Ultimate field, as we stare to be.
Jump off the field and maybe into the rain clouds. It was a little slick there out on the field in the first half, too, but like you said, sometimes that makes it a little bit more fun.
Yeah, I mean, it can be fun to lay out. You slip inside on the grass. Neither team's too concerned about these conditions. They both played in wet weather throughout the year. Pittsburgh and Oregon, not exactly, northern Minnesota and New England, but still not two tropical destinations. And it's funny, this year, Central Florida is the really only warm climate team to make it to semis. Carleton from Minnesota, and then you have Pacific Northwest in the Ohio Valley represented.
UCF, a first-time semifinalist. We'll see them coming up later on tonight here in Madison. So here at the half in Open Semi number 1, and Sabah of Pittsburgh out in front 8-7 in front of Ego, Oregon, the number 1 seed here on the open side.
This is the microwave shot. This is the microwave shot. This is the microwave shot. This is the microwave shot.
We're back to Madison, Wisconsin. Mike Cousins, Evan Lepler, glad to have you along here. A bit of a rainy day, about half between Pittsburgh and Oregon, and Sabah with the 8-7 lead. courtesy of a big score at the end of the half from Tyler DiGirolamo. Let's take a look at the Heisman Trophy of USA Ultimate Callahan Award nominees from some schools that have seen some great games played here in this tournament.
Well, Bailey Zahnizer on the left. She's in the championship game, but she's not holding the trophy. UNCW's Claire Chastain, proud member of Seaweed, and the Seamen of UNCW celebrating the Callahan Award. UNC Wilmington, a strong season and nobody better in the country than Chastain.
So 8-7 and Sabah of Pittsburgh out in front. You're going up against the Callahan Award winner and Dylan Freechild for Oregon. Let's take a look at our first half highlights.
Well, Pittsburgh got on the board first. And a great deep shot from DiGirolamo. And they found Tyler in the end zone. Is that a mohawk or a faux hawk? Did we decide?
Faux.
Okay, you're the man on hairstyles in the broadcast booth.
That's the fake mohawk, but he's the real deal on the field.
Yes, he is.
You know, obviously we have this target on our back, and
great defense in the end zone. That was one of the few real solid Ds we saw in the first half. There's really nothing you can do about that Freechild up line cut except be physical with him. And you can see the celebratory swagger from the men's Callahan winner, Dylan Freechild. He's just a junior. But it's not just Freechild, even though he's fairly well featured on this highlight. The deep shot here, and Fruchter with a tremendous D on DiGirolamo. Neck and neck at the half.
So a very well played first half as Pitt does take half 8-7, but Oregon was down at one point 7-3 in that first half. So a very big comeback, and you wouldn't expect anything other than for it to be a one-score game at half.
So 3 straight semifinals that have been 8-7 at the break, right?
It's a good weekend to be in Madison, Wisconsin, that's for sure. Several thousand on hand each day this weekend to watch some of the best ultimate that you can see here in this country. So Freechild getting set for the pole. And then Sabah will have a chance to build that lead here to start the second half.
10 seconds.
Worth mentioning that Pittsburgh is receiving the disc. Pitt is up a break as we start the second half. If Pittsburgh can score every time they receive, they'll be headed to the finals, and Oregon will be watching tomorrow.
Nearly a Callahan to start the second half. And then Sabah just sneaks out of the end zone. And a pick called on the field.
Both coaches said that depending on how tight the game is, that'll be a factor as to how tight the rotations are and how many substitutes are used in the latter moments of the second half.
DiGirolamo guarded by Hahn. That's been the matchup all game. And another pick.
You know, Aaron Hahn hasn't done a ton offensively yet. And give DiGirolamo credit for sort of taking one of Oregon's biggest weapons out of the game.
Ego forces away. Now right at the brick mark, DiGirolamo looking toward the end zone. Teammates cutting back to find him. Thorin, forehand flick, end zone. Contact on the play, but a score for Sabah. Real tough contested grab for Michael Brenner.
Not the first time we've said Michael Brenner's name, and probably won't be the last. Pittsburgh working up mostly the break side here. These are flick marks. Penner overran a little bit, tried to recover. Nice bid on the layout attempt from Ty Swain, but nothing he could do. Low release flick, right on the money. The Pittsburgh offensive player had the step, and he's got the score.
So this is playing out, at least on that first offensive possession for Pitt, as you said it could. They continue to score every time that they've got the disc, and they're headed to the final.
It's as simple as that, but it's really not that simple. Nick Kazmarek crafting the En Sabah defense for this point. Be great if we can get an isolation on Kazmarek right as Pittsburgh is going to pull. He will signal right up to the pull as to what defense exactly they're going to do. And he signals to the sidelines as well. Teams like to spread out their extra players on both sidelines to create energy. And it really does make a difference. If you have sidelines that are going absolutely bonkers, it inspires you to play better on the field.
You know, the coach I saw who was most enthusiastic about that yesterday was Texas's Calvin Lynn. Every time that he didn't see his team exactly where he wanted them to be or not spread out enough up and down the sidelines, he was sprinting to say, hey, let's go, let's get down the sideline.
He's one of the most experienced coaches in the country. Been in Austin for 16, 17 years now, a computer science professor at UT and one of the better ultimate coaches in the nation. Texas, a perennial nationals contender. But Tough was upset by Dartmouth Pain Train in the pre-quarters yesterday. That was one of the more surprising games. Talking to some people that thought that Texas could take down Pain Train and then give Carleton a good game, or UCF.
Deep puck, Allison Hall's gonna wait for it to fall. And the jump missed time. Good D in the end zone. Trent Dillon knocks it away.
Both players mistimed the jump, but on the recovery, it was the 6'6" Beardsley. They both landed, but Beardsley's 6'6", so he wins the reaching contest.
How difficult is that when you're waiting for a disc to come down to time your jump? DiGirolamo runs right under it.
It's one of the biggest learning curves there is in ultimate.
Forehand flick, end zone, just a bit too high.
20 seconds.
Because there's so many factors in your decision to either make the leap at one time or another. Do you lay out or do you keep running? It's not like in football where gravity is a cruel mistress. In ultimate, that disc is gonna hover up there and float for you. And it's a great feeling to be faster than gravity and to overcome a good 10-yard gap when it looks like the disc is dying. Young players out there, never, ever give up on the disc.
I'm going to go back to a little bit of high school physics. I think to be faster than gravity, you'd have to be going faster than 9.8 meters per second squared.
I'll take your word for it.
That's a dangerous decision.
Thank you, Pythagoras.
Okay, what is the count? Yeah. Coming in 3. Okay, we're set.
Count at 3 with the mark from Marcus Rainai Dropcho. Played back in by Wilson Moses.
Then.
Davis up ahead, finds Hahn, just keeping his toes inside the line.
Good dump swing with a straight stack. One of the handlers taking off deep. Floater.
Allison Hall this time times the jump perfectly for the score. Ego gets it in.
Mike, just as important as your timing on the jump is your positioning and being able to attack the disc from the advantageous position. Allison Hall uses his body to create space, backs into the defender, not much contact, there could be more, but he timed it perfectly as well.
So a superb grab, and for Davis, that's his 3rd assist of the game.
An important score for Oregon. Jay Jannon talking with Brian Penner.
As far as he's concerned, nothing to smile about yet. Still a 1-goal deficit for Ego. Freechild getting set for the pull. So 9-8, a Pittsburgh lead. 2012's defending champion, still up by 1.
Worth noting, we're about 6:45 local time here in Madison. The lights have been turned on here at the stadium. Plenty of daylight left, but the lights are on. First time this weekend that Ultimate has been played under the lights.
Looking for DiGirolamo. He's one-on-one and a two-handed grab gives in Sabah its 10th point.
In another life, Tyler DiGirolamo wanted to be the punter for the Pittsburgh Steelers. And Ultimate, a punt is a celebration after a score like this. An excellent throw, perfectly timed cut. He faked in, had the step on his defender, and if DiGirolamo has the step, you know, you never want to give up on the disc. You never know what's going to happen, but more often than not, DiGirolamo is going to take care of business on that play.
And Thorne with 2 strong fakes and a long backhand, wrapping it around Brian Penner. He gave up the backhand there, and they make them pay. DiGirolamo's 3rd goal is Pittsburgh's 10th point.
You know, the goal count is not as important as the presence that he provides on the field point by point. Oregon has to respect the fact that he can go deep every time. And because of that, he takes advantage of going underneath, and he's got the throws to set up teammates. You know, there's some great deeps out there that don't have the throws to make that 30-yard in cut and then throw it 30 yards to the end zone. DiGirolamo's the full package, trying to become a 2-time national champion.
Allison Hall stuck along the near sideline, forced flick, gets rid of it. Out to Fruchter, who has provided some good D today. And a dump swing over toward the far sideline.
Either a pick or a foul was called.
What was the call?
Looks like it'll be a pick.
The observer's trying to get to the bottom of it as well.
What it was. I guess it was a pick. Okay. A shrug.
Well, we guess so too. Looking deep. One-on-one and tipped away by DiGirolamo. He was there with Hahn.
Looked like Hahn called a foul. They're going to try to figure it out.
Is anyone coming to us? Anyone? Okay. I heard. I saw. Okay. It's gonna come in with a defensive check. It's our call. Give me no foul. Hang on, freeze, freeze. Okay, defense, check it in. Let's get in 20 seconds.
I think that's the right call. There was a little bit of contact there, but Hahn mistimed his jump. DiGirolamo did get a hand primarily on the disc, smashing it to the ground. Let's see if Tyler prevented him from making the leap. Nah, he didn't. Hahn didn't really have it in his hand. He got it knocked out. If he got him on the arm, it was marginal.
That you see there, the play with the observers. They want to go to them. Only one player has to say yes. DiGirolamo and Hahn again. Floats the backhand, middle of the field. DiGirolamo over the top. Finds Dillon. Very patient possession here for Sabah.
Keith!
Forehand too high. Nobody gets it. Deed away by Ego.
That's one of those unforced turnovers. Pittsburgh right on the doorstep of taking an 11-8 lead. Floaty forehand allows Ego to try to go the length of the field.
We talked to Nick Kesmark before the game. He said one of the things was putting pressure on the marks.
Yeah. We're 0.
Foul was called, so Oregon will have it.
Hey, are we set? Okay.
A little bit too much pressure there from Renai Drapcho. And a count back to 0 as Ego puts it back in. On near sideline, that catch is inbounds.
Thorne with a great layout bid. Trevor Smith had the catch.
Pitt tees it away, and Sabah regains possession. A 2-score lead here in the second half.
In terms of the conditions, the rain has let up, and the wind has mostly let up. So some of these high floaty throws, not a great excuse for them. Except for the defensive pressure, perhaps.
Across the middle, Renai Drapcho.
Oh my, that was down. Everybody in the crowd is pointing down.
Check. Ho, come back, come back. Check it in, okay, we're good.
That was hilarious. We had thousands of people with their hands in the air pointing down simultaneously.
Well, we know that if there's ever an opening for an observer, we've got thousands of people ready to fill in. Once again, an unforced turnover and a very rare drop there from one of the Open Division's best players.
Thing about Ultimate, this is not golf. You can't watch on TV, call in a rules violation, and get something overturned.
Wouldn't make you a very popular individual. Ego playing through the pressure, being forced away. Oh, a difficult cross-field throw complete.
Yeah, stall count was rising. They're going to call it traveling violation. No, they're going to wave it off. He did slip, and he landed on his right knee, but his left foot may have stayed stationary on this throw.
Yeah, it looked like
Keith,
purely,
that's you, Keith.
Purely the slick grass
Colin, you go.
was what changed that play. Campbell gives it up, the catch is in. Hodge got it, and a score for Ego. 1-point game.
That was a championship-style point. Back and forth it went, and finally Oregon able to capitalize on the short throw to Hahn, who leaps into the end zone, make sure his first point of contact is beyond that line. The big throw on that point was with the stall count rising, the cross-field hammer, a dangerous throw, one that Oregon coach Jay Jannon, that probably made him a little queasy, but it worked out, and Oregon gets the score to inch back within one.
These are the types of players, though, that are comfortable making those throws. Surely they make them all the time in practice, maybe just fooling around, maybe as part of drills, but when it comes to a game, I'm sure it's a much more tense situation.
Hammers are like the half-court shot of Ultimate. You know, at the end of NBA practice, guys will just shoot half-court shots, but doesn't mean they can make them consistently. Hammers are probably more consistent than half-court shots,
Okay,
but at the same time, it's certainly not the most reliable throw. Sometimes you can find open space and score with a hammer. Remember back in, I think it was 2006, when the final point of nationals ended on a hammer. Florida won it all. Tim Garrett to Kurt Gibson.
First to 15 is our winner, although if a soft cap comes into effect, that could change. Quick movement down the field. Saul fake the hammer. Now a couple steps shy. Brenner. You got a lot of traffic there at the goal line.
Pick call, pick call.
And a pick call.
That was a great layout bid and an even better recovery. He didn't get the disc, but he got up quickly to put on that strong mark and prevent Michael Brenner from quickly getting to the end zone. You know, the aggressive mark may have been a foul, not much to gain by calling it there, but in a situation like that, if he stays on the ground, doesn't pop up as quickly as he did, Pittsburgh has nobody in Brenner's way looking for the end zone. And all of a sudden now they're jammed on the sideline a little bit. Good dump swing.
DiGirolamo racing end zone. Tightly guarded. Shakes his mark, gets it back.
Here, 0 right here.
But another pick.
Pick was away from the disc. Continuation keeps the disc in DiGirolamo's hands.
Hey, we are 0. Everybody set?
Stahl coming in on 0.
And look at the matchup we've got here. DiGirolamo and Freechild.
Two of the best players in the country.
Kaufman forced away. Give and go for DiGirolamo.
As quick as Dylan Freechild is, and there may not be a quicker player in the country, there's only so much the defense can do against a guy of this caliber.
Too quick even for Freechild, and DiGirolamo has his 4th goal of the evening.
Nice little give and go up line for the score.
So they make the defensive change there. Instead of Hine, they go Freechild. What do you see behind that move?
Well, it may have been just a who was near DiGirolamo on the turnover, who felt comfortable guarding him. Not sure if that's Oregon's best matchup. They have some bigger guys who can try to keep pace with DiGirolamo.
Now we take a look at one of the best players in the Open Division and how DiGirolamo has impacted this game.
Well, he's done it on both sides. Defensively, reaching over Hahn, a foul was called, it was overturned. And at the offensive end, he's done his work on basic upline cuts, taking the deep shot too. Tyler DiGirolamo, nobody scored more goals in last year's college nationals. And in the semifinals, he's been as good as anybody, and he's got Pitt 4 points away from another championship game appearance.
Last year was in Sabah with a win over the Hodags of Wisconsin. Despite playing in their home city here in Madison, neither in the Open nor the women's division is Wisconsin represented this late in the tournament.
Basic horizontal stack here, 4 across, 3 handlers.
On the sophomore controls, good size at 6'4".
DiGirolamo not on the field at this point. They're giving him a short breather. Oh my.
It's dropped right at the brick mark. That's a big turnover. Trevor Smith lost it.
Maybe the wet disc, maybe some nerves. There's also the reality that if a disc hits your hand 1,000 times, once or twice, it's going to be dropped.
And it looked like as he tried to make that clap catch that his eyes came up before he completed the play.
Yeah, that's what it did look like. Sometimes you can get away with that, but it's not the smart thing to do.
And a pick call, so that'll come back.
Hey, let's go back to where it was, gentlemen. Back to where it was. Yeah, a little bit more. Right there, right there.
Defense resets. Pittsburgh keeps the disc. Nice job holstering the throw right there by Tyler Kunze. He had a teammate streaking deep, but it would have been a really tough throw. And this is a very important possession for Pitt.
And the wind right now blows from the far sideline toward the near sideline. So that flick would have been going against the wind. Back out Dillon at the brick mark. They force away. We're getting a lot of physical play here on this possession.
Well, the intensity is gradually rising as we get closer to the conclusion. I genuinely believe that both of these teams came into this game under the presumption that absolutely they were not going to lose. They both were supremely confident. That's how good both teams were this weekend. You know, Oregon has been the better team from February to May, but this weekend, both of these teams have been supremely confident and dominant. Timeout called. The first timeout called in the second half. Got a little stall count there, but Pittsburgh will have almost a full 10 seconds on the restart in the red zone, trying to take a 3-goal lead, 3 goals away from game.
So 11-9, Pittsburgh trying to send itself back to the finals tomorrow. And Tyler DiGirolamo has been a big part of this. 4 goals, 2 assists, so a hand in better than 50% of Sabah Noor's offense. Oregon so far being outscored 3-2 here in the second half. But when Ego has gotten it down in the red zone, they've made the most of it.
That stat is interesting, though, because they both have scored 6 times in the red zone, which suggests that Oregon is not being nearly as methodical. They're taking the deep shot, trying to score from the 30, 40-yard line. And for the most part, it hasn't worked out. They've had some unforced turnovers in the midfield. They've taken some deep shots that have been D'd and overshot. Now, after a timeout, the offense gets a certain amount of time to set. And when they do, they have to freeze. And at that point, the defense matches up. It's a small 3-person stack in the back.
That quickly dissipates. Dillon sends it back.
The mark prevented that throw from getting off.
They want Rainite Dropshire to go forehand. He does, and a backhand into the end zone. And a score for Sabah Noor. Out of the timeout, and they convert perfectly to take the 3-score lead.
Once again, calmness, composure, the confidence to know that there's no rush. Pittsburgh had it close to the end zone for a minute or two, took its time, and found Pitts in the end zone.
We ran into a soft cap on that last possession. It's now a 12-9 game. How does that change the way this game will end?
Well, after the last point with a soft cap going on, you add 2 to the higher team score and play to that number. So 12-9, it's game to 14, which means things get even tougher for Oregon with less time remaining.
The #1 seed is starting to have its back pushed against the wall. Nick Kaczmarek's squad looking more and more confident as this match goes on.
They have a reputation for being the most prepared team in the country. And it certainly looks like that preparation has paid off. Jay Jannon perhaps starting to wonder whether his team has a heroic comeback in itself.
And to do it, will the answer come from the man with the disc, Dylan Freechild? He shakes his mark and starts running downfield. They've got a huck headed for him in the end zone, and it's Freechild who breaks free. Ego right back in it.
Well, the next deep point is going to be of great magnitude for Oregon. Freechild, the quick throw, and then he's gone. Taken off. Beardsley tries to help out. But Freechild too quick. Frankly, I was a little disappointed. I was hoping we might see Freechild try to outleap the 6'6" Beardsley, but the throw was too good for the Sky. No need.
Third goal of the evening for the Callahan Award winner. The junior takes it down and he brings Ego back within 2.
There's a great highlight clip on YouTube of some of the plays that made Freechild the Callahan Award winner. Ridiculous leaping ability against some 6'6" guys like Beardsley. But again, that time, no need for the leap. Similar to the second women's semifinal, this is the point of the game for Oregon. If Pittsburgh takes this down and scores and holds serve, then they're 1 point from a win, and Oregon would need to score 4 straight, which against like a team like Pitt is a titanic task.
Kaufman watched it fly out a brick, so they'll take it out. And 3/4 of the field to go for Sabah.
Again, worth mentioning one more time, the soft cap is on. It's game to 14 now. Pittsburgh 2 points away with the disc.
DiGirolamo was down the near sideline, but Thorne didn't feel comfortable giving it to him. Now it's Thorne back with the disc. Just shy of the end zone. Right in, they get the score. They didn't get the connection earlier, but DiGirolamo brings it down again, and Pitt is within 1 of a win.
Coming into this game, we knew both teams had great players, and which ones would step up. Aaron Hahn is one of the best defenders in the country, but even he is at a loss as to how to stop Tyler DiGirolamo. His 5th time catching it in the end zone in this semifinal. Hahn was in the neighborhood, but not nearly close enough to make a play. Pittsburgh's on the brink.
It's cold this afternoon. Tyler DiGirolamo, the way his shirt looks, you'd think he's in Miami. The sweat coming down, you can tell how hard he's working.
He's played the vast majority of the points. He's going to get a break here on this D-line, it looks like. You know, Oregon still has 2 timeouts, but choosing not to use one here to talk it over. Pittsburgh might have its best offensive line resting up here. If Oregon scores, Pitt will have a few offensive chances.
The pull from Marcus Rainey drop choke gives plenty of time for the D-line to make its way down the field and set up in man-to-man.
Trying to go Huck. Freechild is the target.
He leaps. His feet are in, and Freechild has scored again for the 4th time today. A quick answer from Ego.
More important than that goal, he's going to try to bring his team together. They have a few huge deep points coming up.
Several steps ahead of Trent Dillon, who gained a little bit of room as that disc came down. Freechild had to wait for it, and his leap is almost really what makes that play, because if he catches it out of the end zone, it's no score, but he crosses over the goal line.
Yeah, he's got ups. He also snuck a peek at the defender to see that Dillon was closing, but not fast enough. The crowd is amped up, as it's been all day here in Madison. Freechild, the National Player of the Year. But sometimes it's not about one player. At Nationals, it's about the whole team. And Pittsburgh has been a little bit better through the first 24 points.
And Sabah will take over here on offense. If they score on this possession, they're headed back to the title game. Last year, a win over Wisconsin. Going deep, nobody was there. DiGirolamo just stood at midfield.
And a foul was called.
Hold up.
I think DiGirolamo is saying that Hahn impeded his progress. He certainly was going deep, then he stopped. Oregon is going to contest the foul.
Yep, contact between Hahn and DiGirolamo right at midfield, and that's where DiGirolamo gave up on the play.
A little bit of a jersey tug too.
Okay, let's go forward there. That's just uncontested foul? Yep, okay. Yep,
So
we're good.
Uncontested foul. The stall count goes back to 0, but it's back near the end zone.
0, guys.
That Pitt's defending.
We good?
About 65 yards from glory in Sabah.
DiGirolamo right now lingering at midfield, working on Hahn, and gets it along the far sideline. Catch made there by Brenner. Dangerous throw back to DiGirolamo at midfield. Pitt careful with its throws on this possession. DiGirolamo a few steps away. Overhand, backhand, and Ed Sabah is headed back to the title game on the score to finish it off.
'13 Pitt, not the same team as 2012 Pitt, but En Sabah back to the championship game. DiGirolamo to Saul, Isaac Saul, one of the senior captains of Pittsburgh. A great victory for Coach Kazmarek and the Pittsburgh program, and for every great victory there needs to be a team that handles the crushing defeat, and that's Oregon, the top seed, the favorite coming into this weekend with the National Player of the Year, and oh so much more, a genuine team. But Pittsburgh, after falling behind early, able to close so strong. It was 3-1 Oregon. Pittsburgh closed 13-8. And a worthy finals participant led by their big man with a mohawk or the faux hawk or whatever you want to call it, Tyler DiGirolamo.
So a 14-11 finish for Pittsburgh sends them back to the title game. The USA Ultimate College Championships are presented by the Discraft UltraStar 175 Sport Disc, the official championship disc of USA Ultimate since 1991. Pittsburgh with the win, and now we're joined by head coach Nick Kazmarek. Coach, we talked to you before this game, and you know your defense was a big factor coming in, but how about Brett DiGirolamo really just taking things into his own hands?
Yeah, I think Tyler certainly stepped up huge in that game. I think a number of our other guys did. Probably one of the most emotional moments for me was early in that game. One of our younger guys, Pat Earls, who I've coached for a really long time, got that D down in that end zone when Oregon could have gone up 2 breaks, and that was huge as well. And then Ty taking over, Alex with great throws. All our guys just sticking to the system through the whole game. That was a really gritty win.
Coach, I imagine you expected the changes in momentum that come in the game of Ultimate. They're up 3-1, you go up 7-4, you take half 8-7. What was the determining factor for you to pull away in the second half?
Well, I think in the second half we just wanted to stick with getting our guys in, sticking to our gritty defense, and keeping flat marks on them. We stuck to the plan and we executed, and that's what got us the win.
You had so many alums here watching the creative of your program. What does it mean to go back to the finals like this with so many big people in your program's history here on hand?
It's awesome to see the guy who started our entire program, William Brotman, up in the stands all the time, or on the sideline sometimes taking photos for us. I certainly am not the creator of this program. It was built by a bunch of guys through a number of years, really tenacious group of guys, and we're really happy, and I'm really happy to be a part of it.
You've stressed that this is a new team and you're not the defending champions, but the fact is you are the defending champions. What would it mean to make it a repeat and win 2 in a row?
Well, I think we have not won 2 in a row before, and that is a goal that many teams have, and we want to do it this team is going to try to get there, and it would take us to a level of excellence. That's what we work at. We're not trying to be mediocre. We're trying to be excellent.
What are your quick thoughts on Carleton and UCF?
I can't wait to see the game, and then we're going to scout the heck out of it and be ready for tomorrow.
Coach, thanks so much, and congratulations. We'll see you in the finals tomorrow.
Thank you.
Nick Kesmerick, obviously very happy with his team's performance today, an alum of Pitt as well. So right now, let's take a look at our play of the game, our Discraft Ultra Star play of this game between Pitt and Oregon.
Well, number 81, Tyler DiGirolamo, so important all game long. Going deep, working the underneath, and the high backhand to finish it off to Isaac Saul. The Discraft Ultra Star play of the game. He flipped that Ultra Star into the stands. A souvenir for one lucky fan to commemorate this Pittsburgh semifinal victory for the second straight year in Sabah. On Memorial Day Monday, we'll battle for a title.
Emotion clearly running high on both sidelines as well for Oregon, the #1 seed that goes down here. At the end of the day, though, you said that players from both of these teams, it's competitive on the field, but they're friendly when they get off the field.
Yeah, I think, you know, they're good friends on both of these teams, and after the game, they'll be able to smile and realize that. But it's still a crushing loss for Oregon. They had championship ambitions. Second best just isn't good enough for Oregon in this second game that we have coming up. The Dogs of War of UCF against Carleton Cut, one of the biggest schools in the country, against one of the smallest schools to play Ultimate. There's so many intriguing matchups. Can't wait to talk about it around 9 o'clock Eastern.
Well, we're looking forward to a lot more exciting Ultimate action here to come from Madison. But for now, Pittsburgh a winner over Oregon by a final score of 14-11. So to watch this entire game on replay, as well as other games in our family of ESPN networks, log on to Watch ESPN or download the Watch ESPN app. This has been a presentation of ESPN.